Hi there, I'm Eric. I'm the creator behind The Revolution of Cassandra, which is a graphic novel based on an award-winning screenplay of mine. I'm super uncomfortable doing this, but what I've discovered is that people really kind of want to know how this story came about, how this graphic novel came about. And so that's what I'm going to share with you. The story's been a big part of me for a very long time. I've been very passionate about it for a very long time. So first, maybe I'll start with a little bit about who I am. I've been in the film business for most of my life. Since I was 18 years old, I was living on a houseboat at the time, and I got picked up on a movie called Drop Dead Fred. I was picked up as a special effects assistant, and I started rigging stunts and doing special effects and blowing stuff up and falling off of stuff. It was all kind of arbitrary and by accident, but I kind of fell in love with the business. That job led me to working for Prince as a rigger, rigging him in a harness, which, it's just tiny. It's this tiny fly harness that I used to fly him around with. My first video was Diamonds and Pearls. I don't know, I was 18 years old, and I don't even know if it made it in the video, but I was sitting in some hot tub blowing smoke to cover nudity. And I thought at 18 years old, I'm never leaving this business. This is the greatest thing ever. Anyway, I ended up staying in the business. He was the kind of guy who fired a lot of people, but he kept me and several others around. And I later found out after he passed away that he kept me around because I was one of the misfit kids. And I think he liked the misfits. So I was sort of able to learn a whole bunch about the business by working for him. He'd fire somebody and I'd go over and pull focus on a camera, or I'd have to paint a wall, or just always doing something different. So it was a great learning experience. And through the years, I worked on movies like all the Mighty Ducks trilogy, A Simple Plan, Drop Dead Gorgeous, Fargo, Joe Somebody, all sorts of different movies that came to my hometown of Minneapolis, St. Paul. While I was on the set of A Simple Plan with my hero, Sam Raimi at the time, he was a big hero of mine, I showed him a short film that I had made called The Interview, which was my first attempt. I shot it on film. It was the first movie actually to debut on the internet that was shot on film. It was kind of a big deal back then in the late 90s. And I got to sit in a makeup trailer with Sam Raimi and Billy Bob Thornton and Bill Paxton and Bridget Fonda. We watched my short film. He sent me to interview with his team because they were making the show Hercules and Xena at the time, and Michael McDonald was the guy's name. I sat in an interview for at least an hour. It took them an hour to basically turn to me and say, look, you're just too young, you don't have enough experience, you don't know what you're doing. Come back to us when you have more experience. So as I was sulking and walking off the lot, and I remember they were doing a Godzilla movie with Matthew Broderick, and they had these big Godzilla eggs all over some set. And I get a call from a guy in Santa Barbara who saw the interview, my first short, and said he wanted me to direct a TV series for him called Critter Getters. In the words of Elmore Leonard, I've seen better film on teeth. It was a great learning experience. I went up to Santa Barbara and I spent a couple of seasons. Think of a live action Scooby-Doo, right? It's kids, animals on location, 10 rolls of Super 16 millimeter film. I got 5 days to shoot. My DP gave me the camera and pulled my focus, said, you're going to learn how to do this. So I kind of, again, like Prince, just got kind of thrown into things and just kind of had to figure it out. And what I learned on that show after a couple of seasons was that I could not direct my way out of bad filmmaking, out of problems, out of situations. I could only write my way out. And so I quit and went through the screenwriting program at MCTC in Minneapolis Community and Technical College, which is just this small school, but it has a phenomenal screenwriting program led by a professor, Hafed Bouissida, who is just one of my greatest mentors in life. The first year of my degree was writing short films every week. You had to write a short film with no dialogue. And it was a great learning exercise. He pounded in the idea that your use of dialogue was your failure as a visual storyteller. So I started writing screenplays, I had some success with some of my short films. You can go to my website, which is ericdhowell.com. Learning how to write helped me become a better filmmaker, better director. In that process, one of my screenplays that I wrote was The Revolution of Cassandra. That screenplay won some awards on the screenwriting circuit, on some of the screenwriting festivals, and I got some attention from it, including Final Draft's Big Break screenwriting contest, Stage 32 for Female Hero, Fade In magazine. It was a finalist for. So it started getting me some play. I guess I wanted to just talk about quickly the inception of The Revolution of Cassandra. Happened when I was in my early 20s. My neighbor asked me to give a ride to her daughter and a friend to somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but turns out it was a party. It was I think it was at a club. I can't even remember where. I was in a pickup truck next to these two young women who were under 21. I was probably 22, maybe. And they were quizzing each other on their fake IDs. And they were like going back and forth because they knew they were going to have to see a bouncer. And so they were even asking themselves what zodiac sign each of them were, as if like the bouncer was going to ask them what their sign was, if he like he would know what, you know, a Capricorn is or whatever. They got out. That's the last I saw of them. And as I was driving home, I sort of just began to ponder this story. What if these two women, they were sisters maybe, they were quizzing each other on a fake ID, but they were crossing an international border. But keep that sort of naivety, keep that sort of strange connection at that time, I thought, maybe I still do, to the zodiac and to all things astrological. So I started writing, and years later, that screenplay became what I have today. And it was a combination of that experience and the experience I'd gathered as an independent filmmaker doing documentaries about kids living in poverty all around the world. So I grew up traveling to Indonesia and all over the world. And this job that I had at the time doing documentaries exposed me to some really impoverished places. And I got to see something that you can't unsee. Once you see how most of the world lives, you begin to realize how blessed you are. And so I wanted to incorporate that into the story about these two sisters. I didn't want to make the great white hero. I didn't want to write from a perspective of, I think they call it the colonial gaze. I was really blown away by the people that I met living in these conditions, and they had the most pride and they were the most hardworking people I'd ever seen and the most giving people I'd ever met in my life. The poorest people you will meet are the most giving people you will meet. The people who have the least to give are willing to give the most, and that's what's amazing to me. And so this screenplay was sort of inspired by that. So the basic story, if you haven't read it or you're just sort of watching this and trying to figure out what this is all about, the screenplay is a story about these sisters, and the graphic novel is a story about these two sisters who roll dice for black market liquor in this fictitious Central American country. And they trade that liquor for humanitarian aid for kids. And they deliver it in this big pink truck called Rosalia. And one day the local gun runner uses their truck to smuggle an exiled political leader into that country, and all hell breaks loose. And so now the peace-loving Cassandra, our protagonist, has to join forces with a man she despises and is in complete opposition to in order to save her sister Moira from the firing squad of the local dictator. Think of it as kind of a jungle romance in the vein of an old favorite of mine called Romancing the Stone, The African Queen, which is even before my time, or Lara Croft in Dreadlocks and Birkenstocks. It's an adventure where everything that Cassandra believes in, she's the kind of hippie, the astrological hippie. She's tested, everything she believes in is tested on this journey to save her sister. And so it really ends up, when you boil it down, the story really is about being for something, not against everything. Because I think everyone's really dialed into what they're against, but very few people are in tune with what they're actually for. So it's this fast-paced, funny, smart big adventure movie, or story, I should say. It's not a movie right now, but I decided to turn it into a graphic novel, and I'll tell you a little bit about why that transition happened. The screenplay gathered a bunch of awards and a bunch of recognition, and it made the rounds to the studios. And they all said the same thing. They loved it. They absolutely loved the story, but the problem was they couldn't justify the budget to make this kind of a film with 2 female leads, especially if both of those leads were Latina. Which, this is in a pre-Barbie world, a couple years before Barbie. I don't know what the answer would be now. The other feedback I got, the other piece of feedback I got from the readers and from the executives was, it's great, but it has too much of an opinion. The old guard doesn't want stories with opinions because they want to be able to market to everybody and get everybody in their seats so they can sell more tickets. And that makes sense from their business model. I just decided I believe so much in this story that I'm going to turn it into a graphic novel. I'm going to find an audience. I know this is a great story. I just need to find a new way to deliver it, and that's how I've ended up here. Like I say, people have been curious this inception and how I went through the process, so I'm going to create a series of videos. I'm going to talk about it. I'm awkward at this. I'm not great at it. It's not my thing. I'm usually behind camera. I still work as a director and a filmmaker and a stunt coordinator and all the things. Music videos, commercials, features, whatever will pay the rent. But I want to share the universe of Cassandra and the inspirations, the problems, the mistakes, the discoveries. If you're interested, if you have questions, drop me a note. I'm an open book, and thanks for hanging.
I was taken by the moon, looking down on everything I never knew.